Hello dear viewers, this is George from Ireland. Here I am in Richmond-upon-Thames. I add that suffix upon Thames to avoid confusion between this and Richmond in Yorkshire or indeed Richmond, Virginia. But perhaps more about those towns later. So you can see the River Thames behind me. This is a borough of London, a few miles out from the centre, about 8 miles from Hyde Park Corner, which was thought to be the real beginning of London in the early 18th century. Perhaps we're 9 miles from Trafalgar Square, which is the geographic centre of London. Anyway, you can see behind me Corporation Island. You can't actually get onto the island. A few boats moored near it, and that away, perhaps you can see the flower pots, which are tiny islands. Anyway, it's a lovely spot to promenade down here, and as you can see, there's some families here strolling, having picnics. People were jogging earlier. People cycle along this path. That's permitted. Not sure what's being renovated behind me, but there are lots of Swiss restaurants here, and if you're going to the high street boutiques, and that's St Margaret's on the far side of the river, some very upmarket flats. There's Richmond Bridge. Very ancient it is too. Look how high the arches are. Indicates how high the floodwaters were from time to time. So the Thames is tidal here, right down to Teddington, a couple of miles away, which is to say some of this is seawater that washes all the way in, all the way out. So the water level can get quite low. And there are delightful walks on either bank of the Thames. I'm actually now on the south bank of the Thames. Cross that river, then you're on the north. It's hard to remember that because the river meanders so much. Sometimes the south can be further north than the north, if you follow. Anyway, there are various boat trips you can do. You can hire little rowing boats, jolly boats and so forth. This is not the best spot to see them. There are sometimes cycles to hire at a place called Blazing Saddles. What else was I going to point out? Yeah, the little ferries going up and down the river. Now, we're near the Richmond Museum, but I shan't film that. It's free of charge. In here, the duck pond. It's not really a duck pond. There's a market there. What else was I going to point out? So there are many lovely cafes. Obviously, there's not quite so much foot traffic here when the weather isn't so clement. As you can see, it's an absolutely exquisite summer's day. Well, not really. Being the British Isles, it's overcast. And there's a railway bridge you can see behind me. So coming to Richmond Station is a good way to travel, served by many bus routes. They often converge on Richmond Bridge. What else was I going to say that would appeal to tourists here? Well, right by Richmond Bridge, not much that I've actually mentioned, just these walks. And if you go the direction I'm going, down towards Kingston, in about half a mile feels like you're in countryside. You're by some well-watered meadows, and there are cattle browsing there. And they've let the countryside grow a bit wild. It's not manicured, which I think is very pleasing, because here we are in a city and the atmosphere is a bit too controlled sometimes. There's Blazing Saddles, of which I spoke earlier. There are sometimes restaurants which are just moored here. You can get the boat down to Hampton Court, see that enormous palace built by Cardinal Wolsey, though that ferry boat is only going in the summer, and it's really very much for leisure. It's not a practical way to get around, not intended to be. So Richmond offers a lot. I've heard that it's the most expensive borough in outer London. You might know London's divided into 33 boroughs. That's if you include the City of London as a borough, which some people don't. Right, so now from this angle you'll see a little bit more what I'm talking about. There are going to be some jolly boats behind me. These type of boats are called jolly boats. The Eton boating song says jolly boating weather and the hay harvest breeze. Could never quite understand, does that mean it's good weather for boating, or indeed it's the right sort of weather in which to use a jolly boat? Jolly boats are just for pleasure. They're not to go particularly fast. They're quite stable. They're suitable for people who are not experienced at rowing. There you are. You would never use a jolly boat for a race, but they're spacious, comfortable. And then you can see one of these riverside cafes I was talking about. And let me see, on yonder side, I better film it before it goes. You'll see the ferry which goes all the way down to Hampton Court, the white one behind me. Okay, so this is part of the walk down to Kingston, and don't worry, I won't walk all those 3 miles or so to Kingston, though I have done so before. Very close to the poppy factory, incidentally, where all the poppies for Remembrance Day are made, but you can't quite see it from the river. Alright, so I shall switch it off now, and highly recommend you pay a visit to Richmond-upon-Thames.